are listening to the most comprehensive paranormal archive on the internet.
Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm covering more haunted places in the U.S. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. And there are many ways to support the show. You can share the show with others, and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platforms. You can sign up for the Patreon feed and get all the extra content there for as little as $1 a month. And you can also check out the merchandise store and get all kinds of shirts and other items as well, with designs made by friends of the show. And you can also make donations to the show through PayPal. Please follow friends of the show. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and is the co-host of this show with me on Saturdays, whenever she's able to join me. And Ricky of the Anything is Possible podcast, who does a paranormal-themed show on Sundays that I co-host. And also Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, which I often co-host as well, and the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, digital broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows, as well as my own, online 24/7 for free. So a couple of things to keep in mind with these, as I always say, with these haunted places shows. How I do this is I get a little list of places in each of the states in the U.S. and cover them. I get a couple of links for articles and put them in the episode description for you all to check out. And I get a summary generated as well about each location. And but that way you can find the articles and go and do your own research and see pictures. And also you can find out if and or when it is okay to go and visit these places, because not all locations are open to the public, or if they are, they only open at certain hours, and the information in articles can change over time. They can become inaccurate, so and I never recommend trespassing for any reason. So, and of course, as always, I apologize in advance for any mispronunciations of names and or words as I'm going through this. Yeah, I think that takes care of everything. So we are in Missouri, as far as where we're at in the list of states here in the U.S. I've heard of this next one. I believe I've looked into it before. May have covered it in part on a previous show. The Lemp Mansion. And this is in St. Louis, and it is one of the city's best-known haunted sites because its history is tightly bound to the rise and collapse of the Lemp brewing family, along with a string of family tragedies that gave the house its dark reputation. History. The mansion was built in the early 1860s and later bought by William J. Lemp as both a family residence and an auxiliary brewery office. The Lemps became one of St. Louis's most powerful beer families, and by around 1870, their brewery was the largest in the city. Over time, the mansion grew into a 33-room Victorian showpiece before later periods of decline, then restoration, and its current use as a restaurant and inn. The family tragedies. The haunting legend is tied to several deaths in the family. Sources say Frederick Lemp died young in 1901 William Lemp Sr. died in 1904, and additional family tragedies followed in the years after. The family's brewing empire also suffered badly with Prohibition, which shut the brewery down in 1919. Reported hauntings. The mansion is said to be haunted by multiple Lemp family members, with the most commonly reported activity centered in the stairway, attic, basement, and former bedroom areas. Here you have stairways, attics, and basements again, just like that one show Jen and I did a couple weeks ago on these sort of often empty and or transitional spaces. Anyway, reports include footsteps, knocks, cold spots, apparitions, the sound of a gunshot, and a strong feeling of being watched. A few legends also mention a, in quotation marks here, monkey-faced boy in the attic quarters, and a spirit believed to be William Jr. in the women's bathroom. Why it became famous. What makes the Lemp Mansion especially famous is that the hauntings are inseparable from a real, well-documented family decline, a major brewing company, dynasty, sudden deaths, Prohibition-era collapse, and a mansion that remained physically tied to that history. That mix of verified history and ghost lore is why it remains one of the most talked about haunted houses in the Midwest. So, yeah, that makes sense with all that. I've heard of the place before. I think I may have covered it because part of the property there that they had was a cave where they actually had part of the house and part of the brewery was built into this cave as well. So, and I did a whole one or more shows on caves. So, this next location is the Missouri State Penitentiary in Jefferson City. Of course, prisons often seem to end up having paranormal activity in them. So it opened in 1836 and operated until 2004, making it the oldest continually operating prison west of the Mississippi River before it closed. It became notorious for overcrowding, violence, executions, and the 1954 riot that helped earn it the nickname the bloodiest 47 acres in America. History. The prison was built partly to help secure Jefferson City's status as Missouri's capital. Construction began in 1834, and the first inmate arrived in 1836. By the early 20th century, it had grown into one of the largest prisons in the country, housing about 5,300 inmates at its peak in 1932. It also served as Missouri's main maximum security prison for much of its history. A major turning point came in 1954 when a riot spread across the prison grounds, leaving buildings burned and multiple inmates and officers dead or injured. The prison also had a gas chamber built in 1937 where 40 executions took place before the facility's death row was moved elsewhere. Haunting. Today, the penitentiary is widely marketed and discussed as one of America's most haunted prisons. Visitors and investigators report apparitions, disembodied voices, footsteps, slamming cell doors, cold spots, shadow figures, and a strong sense of dread in different parts of the complex. That's a lot of activity. A few of the recurring ghost stories include the entity known as Fast Jack, described as a white lab coat figure seen in hallways and near the control room, and reports from the old gas chamber area of invisible touching, voices on recorders, and strange odors. Why it feels haunted. The prison's reputation comes from a mix of real history and grisly atmosphere. Severe overcrowding, harsh discipline, violent deaths, executions, and the scars of the 1954 riot. That combination has made it a favorite location for paranormal tours and ghost hunting investigations. So that does make sense. I believe I've seen that location covered in different shows before. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But in so many prisons, I mean, I could probably do a whole show on that, on just the haunted prisons of the U.S. and elsewhere. But that's a lot of dark history, so I don't know if I want to do that or not. So this next location is the Beatty Mansion, Beattie Mansion, often called the House on the Hill, is a historic 1854 home in St. Joseph, Missouri, that began as the residence of Armstrong and Eliza Beatty. Armstrong was St. Joseph's first banker and served as mayor 5 times. After the couple died, the house was repurposed as a refuge for the homeless, orphaned, and later the elderly, which is a big reason it's tied to so many ghost stories today. History. The mansion was built in 1854 for the Beatty family, originally as a smaller structure that later grew into the large hilltop house seen today. Armstrong Beatty was an important civic figure, and after his death in 1878 and Eliza's in 1880, the property eventually became a charitable home rather than a private residence. In 1895, it was converted into the Memorial Home for the Aged, and it continued serving vulnerable residents for decades. Later, it was also used as a group home for people with mental illness and substance abuse issues before being sold to private owners in 2004. Haunting. The mansion's haunting reputation centers on reports of voices, strange lights, odd photographs, shadow figures, and full-body apparitions. Renovation crews reportedly experienced so much activity that some refused to return. That's always fascinating when you have that in places where, and I've heard that before, where people, in some cases, people have to, when they buy a place or when they're running a place, they can't, they can barely get all the construction or renovation done because they keep having to hire new workers because things keep happening to freak people out that are working there and they don't want to come back. Let's see here. Commonly, I lost my spot. There we go. Commonly reported spirits include Eliza Beatty, who is said to roam the second floor and guard the halls. A child spirit on the second floor associated with laughing and yelling. A male presence in the basement often described as taunting or laughing at visitors. Why it stands out. What makes the Beatty Mansion especially famous is the combination of its layered social history and the amount of paranormal lore attached to it. I don't know if I like that word lore, because to me it's experiences, but anyway. It's not just a haunted house story, it's a former home, charity house, and care facility where many people lived and died over more than a century, which feeds the legends around it. Anyway, that's that location there. Yeah, I'm not sure if I like that word ghost lore, because to me, if people are having experiences, I mean, I guess I kind of get it. Anyway, um, so yeah, that's fascinating. I can see that kind of place with people coming and going and all that, and just people in different states of life and just troubles and all that, causing things to happen there. Moving on to the next location. This is a place called Pythian Castle in Springfield, Missouri. It began in 1913 as the Pythian Home of Missouri, built by the Knights of Pythias as a home for elderly members, widows, and children. During World War II, the U.S. military took it over and used it with nearby O'Reilly General Hospital to help rehabilitate troops and house prisoners of war. That's quite a bit going on there. History. The Knights of Pythias bought the land for the project in 1909, and the castle was designed to look medieval while functioning as a charitable residence and meeting hall. After 1942, the Army repurposed it as the Enlisted Men's Service Club, with entertainment spaces like a theater, ballroom, bowling alley, pool hall, and library, and it remained military property until it was sold as surplus in 1993. Haunting. Its haunted reputation centers on reports of a, in quotation marks, lady in white, a child-sized figure in the basement, shadow figures, disembodied voices, cold spots, strange smells, flickering lights, and people feeling touched or brushed by unseen presences. The castle's wartime use and long history of illness, death, and confinement are often cited by ghost tour guides and paranormal writers as reasons the building feels especially active. Today, Pythian Castle is privately owned, open for tours and events, and is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So that's fascinating. That's a lot of history there. You have sort of a private charitable club kind of place, and you have military going on there. Prisoners of war is just, can't imagine that was, I mean, that's not good for anyone. People that are doing the imprisoning or the prisoners. Excuse me. So, yeah, doesn't surprise me there's activity reported there. Let's see how long the next one is here. I think I might be able to get one more done. Maybe not. Yeah, we'll try, because there's too much time not to. The next location here is the Elms Hotel and Spa, and this is in Excelsior Springs, Missouri. It's a historic resort that began in the late 1800s, grew out of the town's mineral spring boom, and was rebuilt after major fires in 1898 and 1910. It's also widely regarded as one of Missouri's most haunted hotels, with legends tied to its Prohibition-era past and reports of lingering spirits. History. The story starts with Excelsior Springs mineral waters, which drew visitors seeking health and relaxation in the late 19th century. The first Elms opened in 1888 as a large resort hotel, but it burned in 1898. A second version opened in 1909 was also destroyed by fire in 1910. The current hotel opened in 1912. Excuse me. The hotel's reputation grew during Prohibition, when it was associated with gambling, bootlegging, and high-profile visitors, including notorious gangsters such as Al Capone. Uh, Later, the property went through periods of decline and revival before returning as a restored historic hotel and spa. Haunted reputation. The Elms says its haunted history comes partly from the two devastating fires and the hotel's colorful underground past. Its own ghost page says the property has been linked to several ghosts and notes a 2013 episode of Ghost Hunters filmed there. Commonly reported legends include a spirit in the basement lap pool area, often described as a gambler from the speakeasy days, a maid in 1920s style uniform seen on the third floor, a distressed woman searching for her child, sometimes blamed for moving objects or pulling hair. That's not good. What makes the and then so that's for that section. And what makes the Elms especially interesting is that its haunting lore fits the building's real history. Repeated fires, Prohibition-era secrecy, and a long history of of visitors coming for rest, cure, and recreation. That combination gives it both a strong historical identity and a ghost story reputation that has lasted for decades. So that's definitely the last one we'll do for this episode. The Prohibition era and the organized crime. I used to when I used to find shows on TV about paranormal activity and haunted places and all that. It used to amaze me how many places across the country were sort of said to be linked to organized crime and Al Capone and all those people. And it's not that I doubt it. It's just, I mean, were they always moving? Were they did they ever stay anywhere? I always wondered about that because it just seemed like they were all over the place. And I guess over decades or whatever, maybe they would be, but it always just cracked me up. Yeah, but anyway, that is common though. All these places that were operated as speakeasies and centers for organized crime, whether it was for the bootlegging or other things, so many of those places are said to have paranormal activity around them, with apparitions of these sort of gangster figures seen in some of these places. And some of them have, hidden areas, hidden doorways, hidden passages, all that kind of stuff too, which is always fascinating. But that is all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.